At 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. First of all, pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Everybody is present. We'll approve the agenda and then go into the public hearing. Let's see, everybody is here from PTA, so approval of the agenda. Additions or changes?
On the consent agenda, we need number 2 and 3,
2 and 3.
put on the action item. Changing the structure of the,
This is 4 also included.
well, yeah, I guess it would be up.
Want all 2, 3, and 4 to build the action.
Yeah.
Okay. What will be added as action items 4, 5, and 6. Okay, anything else? Anyways, I'm gonna take a motion. I'll make a motion. With the adjustments, is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. This time I entertain a motion to close this meeting to go into public hearing.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Who's the second? Bob. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. At this time, we'll invite the people from TKDA to come forward, and this is a public hearing pursuant to Minnesota Statute 396.26 to receive comments regarding the Houston County draft of comprehensive use plan. For clarification, the county has been working on this for months. TKDA has been our consultant. They are the ones here to receive public comment, and they will be taking care of the public hearing. Have at it.
Thank you, Dewey. Good morning, commissioners. As Dewey stated, we've been working on this for a few months now, started last year. I've been working with the county, updating your old comprehensive plan. Just a quick summary, we started last fall and late summer with some engagement, kind of getting a sense of what the community members thought of some of the issues facing the county. We've worked with what's called the project management team to kind of guide us through reviewing some of that data from that engagement over the winter, and this spring we've crafted this plan as before you today as a draft. Then earlier this spring we've opened it up for comments again to get some feedback on this draft. We do have some comments that were received over the last month or so from the public. There was a few late comments that came in after your packet was made, so Allison did print those off, so you can review those here today. But today, as Dewey stated, we're here to receive any other comments or feedback on the draft plan today for you. So with that, I will open up questions.
First, what's your name?
7 months.
We're gonna have a comment.
Yeah, certainly.
Whoever has a comment should come forward.
Anybody in the audience? Anything else you want to add to other people going?
Just to give an overview of what a comp plan is, you can think of this as a blueprint to kind of guide future decision-making moving forward. A comprehensive plan typically has a shelf life of 10 to 20 years. You can use this kind of guide decision-making regarding land use, transportation, parks and recreation, infrastructure, what have you. A lot of the details in the plan are more guiding principles. What really dictates, though, any of these, let's say, development or infrastructure plans, that's going to be more of your ordinances, the nuts and bolts of the details would not be in this plan. So this is kind of your overarching guide, whereas, a CIP would guide your finances. Your engineering plans obviously guide your infrastructure, your zoning, subdivision ordinances guide your land use, so. We're kind of looking higher level, not quite in the nitty gritty details with this one.
Anybody wish to address, come forward, please, and if we have camera up here. Record it. Just to clarify, there's no action being done at this date, so. we'll just take a couple comments today. Identify yourself.
Yes. My name is Steve Hartwick. I'm from Money Creek Township. We can find it back here. Okay, the way I read it in chapter 2, there's it seems that the switch has been made from requiring a 40-acre or a quarter section to build to a capacity of wells and sewage. Am I reading that correctly?
We are not changing, so you're referring to the density.
Yes,
We're not changing,
okay,
status quo.
okay, because I was concerned about, 2-acre, 5-acre plots
Correct.
getting scattered
Yep.
and what, especially burden to the townships is trying to make
Right.
services for that. One of the points in chapter 4 was to encourage the establishment of trails for use by pedestrians, cyclists, and others. I would like to inject into that other non-motorized usage, such as cross-country skiing, snowshoeing. What I'm concerned about with the motorized is, as people are aware of, is ATV, OHV trails, especially the city of Houston, and what that involves with the erosion and noise pollution and that. And also, once you get a officially designated trail, you're dealing with the DNR, which is, we all know what kind of enmeshment and entanglements are involved there. There's a lot of things if you check into it. I don't think people realize that if you have a officially designated DNR ATV trail, you are allowed to have open bottle on those pathways. The third thing that I was concerned about, there doesn't seem to be much mentioned about reclamation of gravel pits. I know that there's very little of that goes on. I'm just concerned, are they going to be allowed in perpetuity? Is there any kind of curtain down the road for what occurs with these? Because I realize that they're necessary. I'm not objecting to their existence, but one of the things I'm concerned about is that they be used for the benefit of the county, and that I think there should be like a radius of how far they can ship materials, like 100 miles or something. I'm not begrudging Wisconsin or Iowa, but I as far as certain minerals, I don't want them being shipped to North Dakota, but in addition to that, once they decide that maybe they're done with the gravel pit, I know that in the frac sand mining, there's an instance in the frac sand mining in Wisconsin where they are going to use that for repurposing electric vehicle batteries. And I'm going, oh God, that's all we need, because they'll have this space that is not being used for anything else. And in our karst geology, I don't think the chemicals that, whatever they're going to be using to repurpose these electric vehicle batteries, I think there should be some provision as to, if they're not reclaimed, if there isn't a reclamation, that there is some boundaries put on their other usage for those. I guess that's it. That's the 3 points I had to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience wish to address the public hearing?
There may,
This
there's
is,
somebody online too.
Yeah, I see that waiting there. Everybody in the room here is done. We have Christine Custer on screen here. Go ahead, identify where you live.
yes, this is Christine Custer. I live in Brownsville Township. And like the previous person that just addressed this group, I was very concerned that there was no mention in this comprehensive plan about the 1 house per 40-acre requirement. And I think I just heard that that was still in effect, but I think it would be really important so there is no misunderstanding that that be explicitly stated in the next version of the comprehensive plan, that the 1 house per 40 acres outside of the incorporated towns and villages is kept in place, and then all of the other points that are being made have that with full knowledge of that requirement. I've lived in states with no zoning like Texas and Ohio, and I really don't want to go down that road. I'd like to thank the folks that put this together, though, because I think they did a really nice job of covering all the bases. And I think the outline, provided we keep this 1 house per 40, will really ensure that our county stays a really wonderful, beautiful, and clean place to live for the foreseeable future. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else up on the screen here? Anybody else in the audience here wish to address public hearing? Again, nothing on the screen and nobody in the room. Okay.
I'm surprised. There's only 2 people talking.
So,
I think it's because TKDA did such a good job putting it together.
and Morgan, right.
Are there any other questions you guys had before?
There's a lot of work there.
There was a lot.
Yeah, we had a lot of meetings, and a lot of discussion.
And I think we had a good basis to go off of too, kind of help. I got one thing. Oh, go ahead. Come forward so we can hear you, and be recorded, sir. I'm sorry.
I don't remember, I didn't read it that closely. Was there anything about capacity, animal unit capacity?
We don't get into the details, so your ordinance already kind
Okay,
of dictates that. already.
so that's not part of the comprehensive plan.
Good question.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
You have to buy the 40 acres or you just 1 house per 40 acres? You don't have to buy 40.
I don't think so, no. So it's not changing right now. So what you currently have would be in effect.
So in the past, you had to buy 40 acres.
No,
Just 40 did that.
it's just 1 per 40.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to own a 40. You can own a portion of that 40 and get a conditional use permit. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marty. Get a conditional use permit to build on that 48. It could only be that you own 13 or whatever, but
It should notify the other property owners in
Exactly.
that 40.
Yep.
So they know that once that house is built, they can't.
right.
The remainder of the 40.
Another way to sort of. Yes.
Yep.
So that they're part of the ordinances and not part of the plan. process.
Yeah, right.
Samantha, you're on screen and I see me. Are there any comments from, these are the other 2 folks who are TKDA who are listening in? Any thought, comments from your point there?
Oh, no, Commissioner, thank you very much. The only comment is to thank the board, the PMT in particular, for the long number of hours that you spent with us helping to develop and draft this plan. And also a lot of thanks to the staff, Marty, Amelia, Alice, and Brian. They all really chipped in and helped us out a great deal. So thank you very much.
I agree,
Thank
well
you.
said.
Speedy recover, Janine, too.
Thank you.
So anything else, any other comment, question? And you have a timeline for presenting for adoption?
Correct. So your next meeting is the 27th. Is that
Correct.
correct? So
Next
this,
regular meeting.
2
Yeah.
weeks today.
yeah, so we'll have a resolution prepared for you. So you adopt at that point.
That's for everybody to be aware of when it's gonna happen. Okay? And go ahead, yes. Come forward, please.
I'm Carol Sweeney from Brownsville Township, and I just have a question about some clarification. Now, you said this isn't going to change, and that was a recommendation in this comprehensive plan. Does that mean that that's board action necessarily? Because you're talking about ordinance.
Right. So if the board,
No,
wishes,
Go ahead.
yeah, sorry. If the board wishes to change anything in the ordinances, that would be something they would do after. So, say you want more restrictions on mining, for example, because, your comp plan, promotes.
Or the
certain
one house per
activities.
40.
If you want to, make changes to that or make it more restrictive, that would be something you do after. So, but at this time, based throughout this project, it's been the consensus to maintain that.
Okay, all righty, that's clarification. Thank you.
Is there anything else you had?
Well, I was just gonna say, this will be a board action for the resolution adopted into.
Correct.
At the next regular meeting.
The other stuff comes in, so. Okay, anything else? There being none, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Further discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thanks so much for traveling down and being with us on screen.
No problem.
Hard work. And a new intern, I guess. Welcome down. Caledonia.
Thank you.
Okay, we reconvene into our regular meeting at 9:17. Now we're ready for approving previous minutes from June 6th.
I'll move to approve the previous minutes from June the 6th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Public comment. In addition to our public hearing, we have always opportunity for public comment. Nothing on the screen. Nobody in the audience. Moving on to consent agenda. We have moved 2, 3, and 4 to the action items. We have one item left on the consent agenda. Entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the one item on the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Moving on to action items. Consider approving a contract extension between Houston and Winona counties for the operation of the household hazardous waste management program. All right. This is an ongoing thing, I believe, right?
Yeah, this is a continuation of the existing contract. It will be through 2027. And what it is it's our agreement, the fact that we don't have a household hazardous waste collection facility. We just have events. And the way it works is they coordinate our record keeping for the state of Minnesota and ultimately the federal government that goes with the hazardous waste part. So they handle the finance part that comes along with paint care, pesticide collection, and then the household hazardous waste. That doesn't mean we necessarily route our waste through Winona for disposal. We do that independently, but they coordinate the reimbursements and the payments and that part that goes along with it. It's a good program in the sense that, which is pretty important, is actually that Winona County has an agreement with the state of Minnesota, and then we have an agreement with Winona County. So we basically get to use the state of Minnesota's generator number. So we don't get into the issue of being a generator of hazardous waste and this type of stuff. We just use the state of Minnesota's number. So we don't have the tracking and all the record keeping the 90-day status and all the other things that would go along with that activity. We have just exclusively the issue of the, basically, signing it and moving it and then getting it from there. So, well, and then reporting and score. So that cuts some of it out. So
So, question with regard to the hazardous waste collection. We typically do that twice a year
right.
with La Crosse County.
Mhm.
So La Crosse County keeps a record of what we collect, and then they give the information to Winona
La
County.
Crosse County does coordinate with Winona County. Yes,
Their county. Winona County is just the keeper of the information and providing it.
right, right.
Fiscal agent, basically.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion that we approve that extension.
There's a second
I'll second it.
discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carry.
Thank
Number
you.
two, consider approving a purchase of service contract with Family and Children Services, FCC, for supervised visitation and parenting education services. John,
Morning.
morning.
So this is a contract for, as Commissioner Severson said, for supervised visitation and parenting education. FCC is an organization we've done business with in the past. We currently have a case. The reason this kind of came too quickly is we had a case that we want to do some parenting education on and hopefully be a component of better outcome in that case. So we have worked with these folks in the past. The last time we had something was in 2019, and the rates that are in this contract haven't changed since 2019. So essentially what this does is it's like a lot of our contracts where we'll establish the language around it, establish some rates, and those rates will be in effect through the end of 2023. I would assume that we'll bring this forward with the group of contracts that we do typically on an annual basis.
The way I understand this is basically as needed, so there's no cost until we say we need your service for this particular.
Correct.
Thank you. Feeling of the board.
Yeah, it's the best interest for children as far as that's concerned, in order for their protection and their being able to stay in the home rather than be placed. So I'll make a motion to approve the service contract with Family and Children's Center for the supervised visitation and parenting education service.
There a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you, John. Number three, consider approving an $80,000 loan request for Beaufort Properties from the Houston County's EDA revolving loan fund for the purposes of renovating and building a downtown Spring Grove to operate Fat Pat's Barbecue and Brewery at the rate that's been set for 2023 at 3.5% for 10-year period. Allison?
Yes, so Commissioners Johnson and Severson, you might have, you can add to this since you're on the EDA board. But last week, Pat Longmire Jr. and his partner came to the EDA. They've requested $80,000. A lot of you have probably heard of Fat Pat's Barbecue and Brewery. It's going to be a big project. They bought a building in downtown Spring Grove. They're going to be adding to the building, and they will operate the brewery and the restaurant business out of there. There's also going to be an incubator business that's going to be offering breakfast out of the same location. So we've got kind of two businesses here, the brewery, which is on the manufacturing side, and then the restaurant on the other side. It's an already established business. This is going to be a big project, over $1 million, and the owners are injecting $425,000 of their own equity into the project.
$1.2 million.
Big start. It's only what the loan is a small percentage of the renovation costs and all the other things that are being involved.
Yeah, we're anticipating around 20 jobs.
initially 8, up to 20.
Yep.
Bigger. This is in the old gas station there, the old Lowe's gas station, is that where it's going in?
Right across from the park there.
Yep.
Yeah, across from the distillery in the park. Yes,
This is one of the bigger loans of the EDA's.
Yes.
this is one of the bigger loans. This is the biggest one since I have been with the EDA, but it is the largest project that's come forward. It has the most equity from the owners. And we have the money available to lend. And actually, if you look at the application, it's only about 6% to 8% of the total project cost. So it's actually a small portion of the overall project.
Supported by the city of Springfield.
Yes. The city will also be doing a loan, and they also had a restaurant challenge of $10,000, which Bat Path won. So they will also be using that.
Lots of positives.
Yeah, they had a really good plan that they presented to us at EDA meeting. I think it'll be good for the community of Spring Grove and good for the county.
We were quite busy at the other location too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So they started with a food truck and now they're currently operating out of Red, and they do meals. I think it was maybe, I'm not sure how often, but whenever they would do a meal, it would sell out. So people come from far and wide to enjoy the barbecue. So
Yeah, who doesn't like barbecue and a beer?
Well, I kind of drew out of that.
he did go out of his space, which is great because there's a huge need in Spring Grove for more food options.
But they thought of everything in their plans.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a very thorough plan.
the brewery part was gonna be the really expensive part of it. We got it figured out. So.
One, kind of a partial brewery right across the street already, so that should draw more people.
Distillery, right?
Distillery.
Yeah, the distillery should complement the brewery
This should work the other-
with some folks going to both. Yep.
Meeting of the board.
I make a motion to approve the $80,000 loan request to Bullfrog Properties.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Moving on to the number 4 on our action. Approve of creating a positions lead child support officer B25 and lead eligibility worker B25. Send John and
Good morning, Commissioners. Public Health and Human Services is proposing to change 2 of its existing positions, one in child support, a child support officer, and the other in eligibility, an eligibility worker, to be more of a hybrid position, doing halftime work in their area and then being a resource to the other workers in their office as a lead to answer questions. And the Human Service Department is here to speak about it.
Yeah, as Tess mentioned, this is something we've talked about for some time. It would be taking 2 existing employees and increasing them to lead workers. They would maintain a caseload and they would not be supervisory. So really it's content area specialist. When you think of this, think in terms of the number of programs that these 2 areas are responsible for. In income maintenance, the number of different public assistance programs, and then the different related programs in child support. Having a broader base of institutional knowledge for those programs is benefit to our staff, and I think a benefit to the people who access those services, and certainly a benefit to Karen, who is the supervisor in that area. These areas are unusually challenging right now, but even outside of the unwinding of MA and everything. These are programs that change all the time. And in our Community Services Committee this morning, we discussed briefly some legislative stuff. And one of the things that came out of this year's legislation is a change in how DHS is structured. So instead of DHS, there's going to be 3 different state agencies. Karen's work will cover at least 2 of those new agencies. So the complexity that comes to us from the state for the operation of those programs, the compliance that is necessary, and the ability to respond to changes and better serve the constituents of Houston County, we believe would be served really well with this. It's also a model that we've used in social services, similar type of thing. Obviously different programs, but there were many different programs in social services, one supervisor covering all that ground. And we've successfully used that in social services division. A number of counties use the same model in the economic assistance world that Karen's in. And it's not an uncommon model. And the cost is fairly minimal after reimbursement. So we did take the item to the Finance Committee to discuss the cost, which would be an off-budget cost. And we were waiting on banding. That banding came back as anticipated that these positions would be 1 band higher than the line staff. Is there anything you want to add?
So you're saying that the new legislation is, this would be more justified because of the new legislation?
Well, I think it's another component as whether that happens or not, I think this is justified. It's just another example. Every time they get together in St. Paul, there's new changes and rules. This year it has been historic in the number of things they're doing and changing. The breakup of DHS into 3 different state agencies will be something to navigate. And
I thought that was for streamlining.
well, that's the intent.
I mean, that's what they argued.
Right,
That's what they
right.
debated, that it's supposed to streamline the efficiencies.
And it may, as we discussed this morning, I think there's lots of people, and probably us included, that DHS is a very, very large state agency, and trying to interact with them constructively can be a real challenge. Maybe on the far end of this, once it's all established and everything, it will achieve some of those better access and streamlining of services, but getting from where we are today to there will likely be a bumpy road.
How many child support officers are right now?
There are 3 child support officers and 1 aide.
So how much of a bump in the banding is it when they went to a V25 up to the age? How much more? Think on?
When we figured the increase on current year, we came up with a total after reimbursement from the state of approximately $2,670.80 for the whole year. Since we're 6 months in, I'm guessing plus or minus $1,500, depending on, with the actual individual, you have to figure out what their elections are, different things like that, but it's a fairly minimal amount. And then that would obviously be built into our 2024 budget.
One thing about this is that these leads would do the research, investigate, understand the rule changes and whatnot, be able to provide that information for the staff that's underneath them. Take some of the pressure off of Karen. She doesn't have to be keeping up to, I mean, she keeps up, but she doesn't have to be there for each one and train. Take some pressure off of her. It's going to provide more insight for departments themselves at a fairly minimal cost for the lessons. Granted, it's not budgeted for this year. It can be taken into consideration for the budget next year at $2,600 or $2,700. But it's a benefit to the department as a whole. With all the changes that are coming on St. Paul, just because they say streamline might mean it's streamlining for them. It doesn't mean it's streamlining down there as far as what we get. And I think in an overall long run picture, if attempt to have people that are learning the individual items that they have to know, being able to have that information to pass on instead of the whole department having to learn. Or Karen having to learn and keep track of everything because it's impossible. Way too many things going on for one person to be able to. So I think it's essential.
So
What about other department heads that all of a sudden say, well, I think we need to move this guy up? Or this guy needs to be moved up, or are we gonna deal with the big can of open worms here, or what?
Each department has got their own individual situations.
More may come.
But human services is by far and away the biggest department that we've got. That has the most regulation, the most people involved with it, not only in personnel that we have working in the department, the county residents that are dealing with it. The other department heads, I don't think have as much of an issue as human services. Same. Well, there's a possibility, but then each case, this is their case. We deal with another request independent.
Similar to some of the other structure, like what the sheriff's office has, lead jailers, lead dispatch. Then that way the other workers can go to them, or outside agencies have a responsible party, so that would be similar to what you're proposing. Then how many lead eligibility workers are there?
No.
None, so this would just be a new position that would be a resource. that they
how
would
many
be able to
people will be
utilize.
under them each lead?
Child support would have 3 and income maintenance would have 8. And that's not including the 2 cases that staff the front has.
The one for the 3. To me, that's just an extra layer that we're adding on for a position. I mean, we have John as our main guy here, and Karen, I know you're busy. But we keep adding layers of supervisors, department heads, leads. And this is just gonna snowball, I feel, into the other departments that, well, I wanna lead them too for training purposes or whatever. The training, isn't that a lot of it done through the state provided?
They teach you policy, they do not teach you procedure. 20% of what the training is. The thing you need to keep in mind is when you have a dual supervisor like I am, they're typically from within. So you're going to always have somebody that's either very strong in child support or very strong in income maintenance. The programs work very closely because the work we do in income maintenance, a lot of times we have to refer to the child support agency. This is going to make sure that no matter who's sitting in the seat, you have people that are available to be supports to the staff. The thing that is also going on with all of the money, the reporting that we have to do has increased greatly. The things we have to track, it's everything is snowballing. The more federal money you get, the more reporting there is, the more audits there are. So to me, there is a definite need in both areas because I know what I'm doing in each area, but I can't go open up a case and be able to process in either world anymore. I'm just that far removed from having to do the daily. I can do it, but when you talk about the numbers of people, it's not just that, it's the programs. Issuing public assistance and processing child support are fundamentally different.
I think another thing we're seeing is our staff is skewing younger. And so while we've benefited from having a lot of long-term staff for many years, those people are starting to retire. And as they leave, we bring in new people who need to be brought up to speed. While the state does provide some components of training, it's widely accepted that both child support and income maintenance, those positions take a year, 2 years to really feel proficient in. We frequently hear from people who come in, that they had no idea of the complexity necessary to do the stuff that we do on a daily basis. So it takes a good amount of time in mentoring those people along. And so as we have new staff, they need somebody to go to. And we've only got one Karen, she can only be in one place. And so we have felt from the beginning that this is a pretty cost-effective way for us to address some of those needs.
We've talked about this for a long time. Waiting for the banding to come through and whatnot. We know that it's relatively inexpensive as far as budgetarily. It takes the pressure off of Karen. She's one person that's got to be in charge of all these different aspects. And take some pressure off of her. It's going to help the departments as far as functionality. It's going to keep it so that everybody in that department, be it 3 or 8, doesn't have to be have all the knowledge, that they know what they're doing, and then somebody above them that can help if there is a question with regard to it, instead of being able to all know it. That for the well-being of Karen and for everything that we need in the departments and all the changes that are coming down from St. Paul, I make a motion that we approve the request for the creating of positions of a lead child care support officer B25 and the lead eligibility worker B25.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I would second that motion.
I have a little discussion. I appreciate the concern of other departments getting, saying we want leads also. This is one of the departments where there's a lot of person-to-person contacts. Just in the next department that has person-to-person is sheriff department. Otherwise, the highway department, all the other departments that we have bailiwick over, won't be in that person-to-person thing. I believe because of that, I don't think anybody else will get excited about having leads per se. So any other comment before going for the question?
My concern is that by creating leads, we lose the team mentality, because this is a team effort. And we all should be helping each other with training, and that includes the department head, the supervisor, and the eligibility workers, the social workers. I mean, it should be a team effort.
But every team has a captain.
Yeah, we got a captain, we got a chief, and we got a captain right now. So now we got a
Lieutenant.
Okay.
Got a station sergeant. Okay, any other comments, questions, thought? Just by roll. By roll, okay,
District 1,
yes.
District 2, District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
No. Now, this leads into our action item 5 and 6. Approve initiating an internal search for a lead child support officer. No additional FTEs, in other words, because of the previous one being voted on, this becomes another action item. Entertain a motion.
Make it a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. There being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. 3-2. Number 6, approve initiating internal search for lead eligibility worker. No additional FTE. Entertain a motion.
We'll make it a motion.
I'll
Is there a
second.
second?
Second.
Discussion. Being none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Carried. Okay. And that takes care of action item. Thank you. Moving on to discussion, we have board updates, start with Greg down there. Bill,
We had land use meeting this morning, had some interesting stuff there. It might touch a little bit better than me on some of it, but sounds like we're gonna have a little bit of increase in the tax rate on
the valuations on
Right.
farmland and woods and
the, yeah, we're gonna have to help
pasture.
spread the word on that, so they're hopefully gonna work with
Yeah,
Yeah.
he appealed with the Department of Revenue on that. And he lost that one, so there's gonna be was it 5%?
5%. I got, I don't.
5% increase on values for tillable farmland. And woods, pasture land.
Anything agriculture.
Right.
5% up on everything.
So that he's working on trying to get, otherwise notice won't come until, yeah, till the tax statement. So we'd like to get the word out before. Which would be important for a lot of situations like the Houston School District is going to do a referendum here in August, so people should be aware that their values will be higher, so that might change what if it were to pass, what it would cost.
Yep, and Brian kind of touched a little bit on some, I guess at the Brownsville City Council meeting with some concerns about speed on both County Road 3 and 18. Did some work with the state. There's really nothing different that they can do on signage. So might be something that the sheriff's office can help them with a little extra patrol and. Yeah, going too fast.
Is that through town?
Coming into town on the 3 end.
On
and
18 and 3.
3 end.
I like your idea that you mentioned before about
The roundabout?
no, not let's refer to that one. But getting that
Right. Brian did mention that
State
towards
trail.
zero death, which he's probably pretty familiar with, a state program that they've got speed display trailers that they actually will loan out. And that they've designated some for cities and counties to request. So I did ask him if he could forward me the information on that, because I know that the different departments would be interested in
There's a lot of
participating in that.
local ones available, the state patrol has them available, I've had them since 95.
Yeah, I think if there's extras, we surely could benefit from that.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm pretty good. I'll probably have to zoom in next week because I'm gonna be out of town for the workshop. Hoping to see Andy for a refresher before that.
Okay. Yep, Bob,
Yep, I'm good. Thank you.
Robert,
Well, last night I was at a SEMCAC meeting over in Rushford on the SEMCAC board. Lots of information there. The Head Start program that was in Caledonia is moving to Spring Grove. With the participation by Spring Grove, Caledonia Schools with the new daycare facility that they've set up and whatnot did not opt to have Head Start, so Spring Grove is taking over the Head Start program, which is a good thing to have that. They talked about financing as far as the funding that they get from the state. The biggest change there, I mean, they got increases in everything, a little bit here, a little bit there, but the biggest increase is the financing they have to keep people in their homes, the rental assistance. Typical budget in the past has been in the $460,000 a year. Biennium, 460,000 over 2 years. They got a 6-time increase. It's 2.6 million that they've got now to assist with that. It's only rent that's in arrears, but they have a fairly long waiting list that now can be taken care of so that they're going to be able to benefit keeping people in their homes and not having them get turned out of their homes. Other than that, lots of stuff that doesn't affect us too much. We had our community services committee meeting this morning, talked about the legislature and what they've done up at the Capitol. Kind of one of the concerns is they spent all $17 billion, a lot of it in the rainy day fund and whatnot. But what happens at the end of the biennium? there's a lot of increases and whatnot. If there's not a surplus at the end of the next biennium, we're gonna have to increase taxes or cut back on a lot of the things that they've increased, so. That could be an issue. Another issue is the cannabis ordinance that, we're gonna talk about it next week's work session as far as what our wishes are and what we should be looking at as far as the cannabis ordinance. I find it kind of interesting that the cannabis is legalized and the state has regulations and licensing and maybe special taxes, but there's also a section in there for educating the public about the hazards of cannabis. It's kind of a strange way of doing things. Legalize it, but tell everybody to be careful. You know, I suppose it's the same as alcohol or smoking, as far as that's concerned. So it was an interesting meeting as far as that's concerned. You know, we talked the other day when we talked about the space utilization study. And when we were out in Austin at the District 9 meeting, they talked, a lot of the counties have work from home programs. And when we had our space utilization study and realized that there was told there was an $8 to $9 million cost to do all of this, maybe we should look at a work from home policy as far as human services is concerned, especially in the one department, the assessor's office that goes out and does the assessing. They have to come into the office before they go and assess. So I think that's a policy that we should discuss. Rob at Veteran Services was there. He went to the National CVSO meeting in Madison. He said it was interesting, and he's been to one, and he probably will never go again. A lot of generalized information, but nothing that was really specific to what he needed. As far as the state is concerned, there's a large increase in service connections, especially that's going to help widows of veterans. And Minnesota has not changed the property tax waiver, but there's a potential that veterans can get license plates for 2 cars at no cost. And there's a question as to what, you know, just the plate license. If you want a specialized license, you got to pay the difference. You know, the recognition of the service members is increasing, and the educational benefits, although lower than most states in the area, have been. The veterans, when they come back to the state of Minnesota, are able to get veterans educational benefits to help them move on from their service to working. And the toxic exposure screenings, you talked about that. Doctors can now test if you've had toxic exposure, but then they say, go talk to your VCSO officer about what you can do. Well, they don't tell them what they've been exposed to. They don't tell them the results. You know, it's kind of a pass the buck. So the veteran service officer's got to be able to come up with what's needed for the veterans. Anything else I'm missing, Dewey, you can cover?
Well, there was the AmeriCorps looking into the opportunity of a person from AmeriCorps Vista coming in to assist. It's a program that's provided by the Fed, and just looking into the possibility of having that help with things as we do the transition. That's another comment I picked out, and I think you hit the other stuff pretty well. Yeah. Anything else?
I got one question for Eric. This letter about the Houston Root River Beach.
Yep.
Who's that from?
This is a comment in response to the comp plan.
Yep.
Oh, that's
So
what.
we're,
Oh.
Yeah, this was the additional
I thought
comment.
this was a specific.
No, this is specifically for the comp plan.
Okay,
we left all the names anonymous.
all right.
Yep.
That's fine. I thought it was a specific to the, because we talked about it before. That's okay.
Talked a lot about the people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay. Good.
that Robert?
That's it.
Okay, yeah.
So I just had a question. like, did you guys discuss? Has public health or John been in contact with Sam on the ordinance?
Yes,
So they've been talking,
Sam, Marty, John. Who else?
That is it.
Jordan.
And Jordan.
Jordan,
Education. Yeah. So, yeah, there's some start.
all right,
I was thinking of having them come here next week, part of our group work, would that be too soon? No,
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Commissioners,
Um,
in answer to that question, yeah, Sam, Marty, myself and Jordan have met. And we briefly discussed this at our committee this morning that we request that you have this on a upcoming work session meeting to get a better idea of where the board wants to go in relation to what the state has allowed for counties to do and how you'd want an ordinance to be arranged.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, we had our EDA meeting last week too, so, I mean, main discussion was the Fat Pats thing, and so that took up most of it. Other than that, I don't have a lot. Anything else to add? That's it.
Okay, my report will be, of course, EDA, that was good information, a lot of stuff. Then I had a meeting the next day with workforce development. And the highlights of that is, of course, this month is diversity month. But that'd be known. Noted that there's a lot of layoffs, especially in the teachers and IT for some reason. I don't know if it's, they don't have a reason for it, but that's what's happening in the area. They talked about their employees are getting a 6% increase in pay, so need to be kind of ready for that one. Start looking at unions next year. Things are happening around us. Then we did the TKDA meeting in the afternoon. Bring things for today. And yesterday morning, I was in Winona for the WinLAC. Went through a lot of updating of stuff. The conservation, there's a presentation on ranking, and so if a person wants to do some soil conservation things in the area, they have a chart now, a sheet that they work with, a ranking sheet, I guess is the term they use. And so that's being implemented. That was a long discussion and voted on. Technical advisory is coming into play. We're gonna have another meeting in September where all of this comes together in fruition here. Cost sharing, and that there's probably that. And then I had Southeastern Minnesota Communication Board. Highlight of that was pulling teeth without Novocaine. No, it was the audit approval, and then we looking at voice logging systems still in discussion, waiting on what happened up in the legislature. There's so many things that happen, and we don't know the whereases until, who knows, 2 to 3 months afterwards to get that all laid out. There's an agreement between Minnesota, Iowa capability, so we can cross borders now with our communication, and there is a broadband committee working on finance. That was just, they say it's happening, but no detail. And again, they'll know better here come September. So that's basically what I've been doing for the last week.
There's one other thing I wanted to bring up on in our land use meeting this morning. Donna, are you still on? She talked about the changes in some of the election stuff coming down the pike, so they're gonna be open more days. You want to touch on that for me?
Sure, Eric. Give me a second. Okay. Yep, so can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Otherwise I could open up my screen here too.
Oh, we can hear you.
Yep, now I'm probably hear me better. Okay, so yeah, the days that the legislature has added that is a requirement for counties now. Coming up for next year, 2024 election cycle. On the second Saturday before the election, the county will have to be open, and that's an additional day. It was previously the Saturday before, but now it's the second Saturday before from 9 to 3. Tuesday night, the 1 week before the election, the county will have to be open until 7 p.m. Also, the Saturday before the election from 9 to 3, and Sunday before the election from 9 to 3. And in addition, Monday from until 5 o'clock p.m. So those are some changes to the hours. They have made sure that the counties will be actually get some administration funding money. So we've got they've let us know that we have 1.2 million that'll be allocated per year for expenses that will be directly related to elections by July 20th of each year. So all the counties will receive some of this money. It will be 50% to the county, 25% to all municipalities and townships, and 25% to the county for the cities and townships that are responsible for administering absentee voting in proportion to the share of the registered voters in the county. So it sounds like there will be some funding for the counties and cities, which will be a really good deal, that will be received by July 20th of each year. And then, of course, we'll have to, keep track. I think they're kind of leaving it up to the counties how we want to, keep track of it. And we just have to make sure to record how this money was spent, and then it will stay with the cities and townships until all monies are spent. So it's not like we have to give it back or anything each year. So those are some of the changes. And then there is a big one of the biggest changes, I guess I might say, is about the felon voting rights restoration. So what that means is if a person is currently serving a felony sentence, unless they are incarcerated, they have the ability to vote. So they can be on work release or if they're serving their sentence, they can actually still vote as long as they're not incarcerated during the election. So that'll be some changes, and we'll have to, really train the election judges so they know and are aware of these changes. Because right now, of course, they're used to the fact that if anyone is considered as a challenge on their registration or on their voter record, they cannot vote. But in this case, with the change, they will have the right to vote under Minnesota statute laws as long as they're not incarcerated.
Hey, Donna?
Yep.
The 1.2 million administration that the state set aside. So that's for all the state of Minnesota, the 87 counties. So I mean,
correct.
You're talking like $14,000 per county, but is it on an average to each county, or is the metros with the bigger election crowd and whatnot, more people working for them, going to get more, and we're going to get just a dribble?
Okay, so the way they're going to distribute that is 20% is allocated equally to all 87 counties. And the next 80% is going to be allocated based on the proportion of registered voters. So yes, Bob, you're right. It is going to be distributed according to the registered voters for the most part, to the 80%.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Donna. You explained that a lot better than I could have.
Yep. Well, it's a lot. It's a lot to comprehend, and we will have a meeting next Thursday. There's a Teams meeting, so all the counties will be on, and we can ask questions, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of clarification. Some counties, we just have a lot of questions, and they have kind of broke it out to what the eligible expenses would be. But at the same time, there are still questions out there that everyone will be asking. So it'll be a really good meeting. It's a couple hours long, so we'll have a lot of information at that time as well. I'll keep you posted, okay?
Got one question for Carol. Carol, on the approval of bills like Botcher Park, who approves those? Is that Brian? Thank you.
It's got one thing. I did attend a Bear Creek watershed meeting last Tuesday afternoon after our meeting here, and all their dams are really good shape, just a little maintenance on a few of them, and sounds like everything's going good now.
Did they fix that big sinkhole
Working it.
on the right-hand side as you go?
Yeah, they're working.
That was a heck of a big hole.
They're talking about it.
Okay, anything else for commissioners' reports? Okay, moving on to closing public comment. That's there any comment from, yes, sir? This is, come forward, I have to hear. Yeah, I'm sorry, we record everything here.
I must have missed it in the approving of the agenda. The number one on consent agenda about Matt Herrick, probationary to. I didn't hear that discussed was.
He's
It didn't
passed
get
all
brought-
this testing and so on, and so it goes from one step to the next step.
But it wasn't addressed. I was just wondering if there was a reason or what.
He was just moved from probationary to regular effective.
Okay,
Yep.
it wasn't brought up. I was just wondering. Is that help going away?
A lot of times when we do consent, there might be several things and we don't go through each step all the time. I apologize for
No,
that.
that was my ignorance, sorry.
I will make better know that in the future. Thank you. Any other public, Allison?
I just have a couple really quick announcements. Next week for the work group session, Smith, the Southeast Minnesota Initiative Foundation is going to be joining us just to kind of give an overview. They do lots of grants in Houston County. They help some of our childcare providers. So look forward to that. The following week, I will not be at the meeting. Donna and Polly will be doing the minutes. I'm actually going to be at a broadband conference in Florida, going on behalf of CETA, but with Spring Grove Communications. So hopefully I will learn some things to bring back to Houston County. And then just as a reminder, the first week in July, we do not have a meeting because that is July 4th. And when I was making the calendar this year, I just made the executive decision that we're not having a meeting that week. So it should be a big meeting the second week in July.
There'll be no delay next day meeting
No,
plan.
no meeting.
Should be also noted that we have a TNT meeting tonight. Here,
Yes,
you guys are aware of that.
not aware of that.
Isn't it tonight or?
Yeah.
TNT meeting?
Truth and taxation.
Yes, it is. It's tonight.
At 6, was it again?
Yes.
Luke brought that up today.
Yeah.
This morning, I mean.
Why are we just finding, some of us just finding that out now?
Well, we scheduled that a while ago.
It's on your tax statement too.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, we should have,
Board of Equalization.
Board of Equalization,
Okay.
sorry, I used the wrong acronym, sorry.
Okay.
mhm.
Okay, that's 6
So you
o'clock
were
here.
aware of that one? No, okay.
Don't me with that, glazed over look in my eye. We'll be back then at 5:45, be ready for a 6 o'clock meeting.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So make the motion.
Sure, second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you.